Welcome everyone to this Kopi session. Today with me we have Pauline Wong. She has served as principal for Holy Innocents High School for 6 years and another 12 years at CHIJ St. Teresa's Convent. And we have all these lovely parents here with us today as well. Some of us have already children in primary school and some are looking to enroll their children in primary school. And I'm sure there are certain things that you look out for when you register your child. So what are some of these considerations or the thoughts that you have about looking for a school?
So I have 6 kids. My first two, they started out in a secular school. But when the fees were doubled, we decided that we would send them to a Catholic school. I remember my own preschool education as a child. I remembered singing prayers before meals. I remembered the songs that we sung. I remembered praying, and I wanted my children to experience that same exposure, that the environment of kindness, loveliness, and prayer.
One of my kids transferred schools in primary 3 to 4. We had to think about what kind of virtues we wanted him to be surrounded in. What drew us to eventually choose the school that we chose, which was Catholic High, was actually the emphasis on service, giving back to society, right? Rather than just achieving for the sake of achieving.
Kids are still in preschool. I live in Woodlands, right? There aren't really any Catholic schools in proximity. Currently, the preschools that we send them to are just in very, very close by. They lack something. My middle child, James, he's been in this phase for a while where he loves to play mass. He'll take any stick and he'll go around and he'll start saying Hallelujah, Gloria, whatever, and he'll just process and genuflect everywhere. So he does that a lot in school. Lately, I think his teachers sit down, right? Don't disturb. There isn't like a continuation of what is happening at home, right? So it would be nice to have whatever is at home to be continued in school.
My kids go to a secular preschool. All in all, it's a very nurturing environment. So we aren't too fussed about whether it's Catholic or not. And then for primary school, it's the nearest Catholic school, Maristella. It's really a mix of my faith, my identity, but also location and convenience.
It's good to hear that you all are actually talking about proximity. And it's not because you all are lazy. I think it's just simply because it's very practical. If you've got half a dozen children and you have to fight the morning rush hour, I think it's very practical. Actually, it's not so bad, because I send my kids to 3 different locations in the morning. So the 4 of them get in the car. I drop one at the MRT station. He takes a direct to St. Gabriel's. Then I drive on to Toa Payoh. I drop at CHIJ. Then I drive on to SJI and then down to Newton for the last one at primary school. Then I head home. I leave the house at 6:45. I'm home by 7:30.
How do you do that? We have 3 primary schools to go to and we leave at 6:20 in the morning.
Maybe I drop them off by the side of the road and they walk a little bit more. Yeah, but it's doable. Yeah. My daughter, she's primary 5 this year, so she comes home herself. It's almost an hour to get from school to anywhere. But I mean, she loves school. She's so happy in school, She's excited to go early for chapel. She's excited to participate. At St. Gabriel's, they have chapel every morning. At St. Gabriel's Secondary, yes. So my son is supposed to go, but he's in the football field. So, some of the teachers ask me, hey, you never ask your son to go. I'm like, God calls him in a different way. but it's there. The option is there. And from what I hear, there are non-Catholic kids that even turn up for the chapel.
So for all the examples that Clarissa has shared with us, would you say that these are some of the ones that differentiate Catholic education from other schools? One of the things that really attracted me to sending my kids to Catholic schools is like the amount of time they spend in school. Like, I think when you actually count the amount of time they spend in school, they spend more than 6 to 8 hours in school. And that's a lot of time out of the house. So I thought that it would be, great, if there could be a continuity in like the lived values and the kind of environment that they are surrounded in. One of my kids' schools, I think the names of the classrooms are after the fruits of the spirit or something like that. One day he came home and he was rattling off all the names of the classes. He said, oh, they're the fruits of the spirit, right? Then I'm like, yeah, good, you listen in your catechism class, that kind of thing. There was just that link in his head, like, yeah, I'm really Catholic, I'm in a Catholic school kind of thing.
For me, growing up, right, being in a Catholic school, I mean, of course, right, yeah, you have to study and everything, but sometimes I just look at that cross and know that I'm not alone in this. Lord help me, right? So I think it'll be nice as well, right? It serves as a reminder. Yeah, and that is, I think, I mean, you go to our church, right? And you have all of these, a Catholic church, and you see stained glass windows, you see statues, and these are all things that are meant to draw you into the faith, right? And I think it would be amazing if a school has all of that, to know that you're not alone and to know that Christ is still there.
Sometimes you see the seeds planted like very early on, and I feel like every student who goes through the system may experience the faith sometimes decades down the road. My own father-in-law, he went to SJI. I know one day I was like booking flights and stuff. Then I was like, hey Dad, how come your passport don't have your English name? Then he said, oh, actually the English name was given to me by a brother in the school. More recently, I mean, he's in his like 70s already. He actually said that, oh, I'm actually curious to find out a bit more. And my mom as well. At 10 years old, she was baptized. No one in her family was Catholic, by the way. But I think one day like a neighbor or stepsister or something said, hey, I'm going to be baptized. And then my mom was in IJ, right? Chimes. Then she was like, okay, I'll go with you. Just like that. Then I asked her, like, what made it so easy for you? Because I was already in that environment. If we really trust in God's hand, right, in all this, sometimes we cannot try to force it. Like, oh, if you know, like they have like 6 years to be, you know, whatever. Sometimes it may be 6 decades, it may not be 6 years. In God's time, 60 years is nothing, what? But to us, we kanchong already, right? You know? So that's something that I just wanted to kind of highlight.
My son in primary school wasn't in a Catholic school. It was always about comparing who was first, who was the best. It was always the topic, I'm better than you. But when he went to secondary school, it was a brotherhood. Everybody was building each other up to be the best that they can be. And that was what he really loved about that transition and being in a Catholic school. He's the one that will initiate praying before meals. I don't have to remind him. In front of the whole family, anywhere he goes, it doesn't matter, let's do it. You know? And like my daughter in CHIJ, no issues asking her to initiate prayer. Okay, Kiara, please start praying first. Okay, then she'll know how to initiate. She has no problems because in school she's a prayer leader. She needs to lead the entire class in a hymn. So she has no issues with that as well. So I think it helps them to live the faith better, you know, because they're surrounded and they're constantly exposed.
So when I was schooling, I was not in a Catholic school. I always felt like I was in an environment where people needed to prove themselves. And I needed to prove myself. And so when I had my own kids, I told myself I'm not going to send them to a non-Catholic school. For the boys, it was quite a no-brainer. They would go to a Catholic school because they are actually fourth generation Catholics. While it was a no-brainer, but my youngest was very drawn to another school. Because why? He had ability, right? And his ability is track and field, right? That was something he was very gifted in and he was very interested in and he wanted to hone his skills. And then he looks at the Catholic school and he says, he doesn't see his own development in those schools, you know, but I had to sit him down and say, look, it isn't just about continuing the legacy in a Catholic school, but it is also about the kind of education you're going to get. Yes, you may go to another school that focuses a lot on track and field, maybe they will develop you in that area and all that, but will it really develop you in other ways? I keep reminding him that there is more to your development of a person than just one track in your. This is just one aspect of your life. There's so many other aspects of your life that you need to develop. Yeah, and this school is able to give you that.
I think we are very blessed that there are so many Catholic secondary schools that our children can choose from. So they're not stuck with, there's only one or two, you know, and they have to hit a certain grade. We really can look at our children's interests and their needs and the support that they need in learning and choose which secondary school is suitable for them.
Even within like the Catholic schools, there's a kind of like ranking. I mean, in terms of popularity, you can see from the stats, right? Like there's some schools that are just tremendously oversubscribed, and some schools that just don't fill up as much. And I wish that it wasn't the case lah.
I also wish that it isn't the case because working in ACCS, I get the privilege of going into schools. Actually, really, some of the schools that are not filling up, it's most of the time it's either geography because they're in a very awkward location, or they don't have an affiliated secondary school, or there are just too many, too many primary schools in that cluster, then of course you're competing. If you ask me, having studied the MOE P1 registration policy, I really feel that people should not wait for 2B. Actually, sensibly, for those with more children, phase 1, because sibling, you walk right in. If the older one moves to a secondary school, the younger one can still go on phase 2. You get what I mean?
Actually, it's not so straightforward because you know what's happening. I have a friend in CHIJ, right? Her daughter just graduated from CHIJ and is in the secondary school. But the next daughter that's coming in is only coming in next year. So she has to reballot and start from scratch again. She doesn't live within proximity.
But doesn't she go into 2A?
Yeah, but even then also now
Ballot lah,
yeah,
right?
yeah, just in case.
It's not ballot, it's because it's oversubscribed.
Right, but
And that is why I feel that people should not just queue up behind the top 1/3 of the school.
but they wouldn't know, you see. When as a parent, right, won't know it's going to be oversubscribed until it's oversubscribed.
It's been consistent, the trend.
I mean, it's true lah, because I was an alumni of my primary, obviously I'm an alumni of my primary school. But my daughter, I tried to register her for P1 last year. For the first time in I think 10 years or something, we had to ballot into
2B or 2A?
A.
2A.
Yeah, we balloted because I was outside of 2 kilometers. So based on past stats, we were like, oh, we are okay, we are safe, we are going in, just close eyes and go, right? But last year we balloted, then we were like, oh my gosh, oh please.
You know why? Because the ministry will allocate X number of places based on the number of rooms in the school. So usually it's, if the older child is already in, sibling walks right through, siblings are guaranteed. Then with that X number, they set aside, there are 60 that they have to set aside. You cannot use up all. There is a phase 2A, 2B, and 2C. So after siblings get their places in phase 1, when you come to 2A, that number, they have to take out 20 to reserve for phase 2B, and they will have to take out 40 to reserve for 2C. So if that number left in 2A,
Very few.
they end up having to ballot.
So actually, I think it's confusing because some schools are full schools.
Yeah.
Like, I think Marie Stella is a full school. I'm not sure about Catholic High. Same, yeah.
There are 3 full
Because they
schools.
share, like St. Nicholas is a full school. So even if the sibling is in secondary school, you go straight. And the primary, you have a 7-year age gap.
Yeah.
The primary 1 kid just walks right in under phase 1.
Under phase 1.
But for the non-full schools, which is most of the other schools in
Yeah,
Singapore.
like IJ Primary and
Yeah,
IJ Sec,
then-
it goes into phase 2. Okay, I'm just going to ask you, what's the percentage Catholic student enrollment that it's good enough for us to call it a Catholic school? You know what the stats are now?
20.
Yes. And we've got 10 schools that are below 20%. My point is that there are other Catholic schools. My worry is this: if we all just keep queuing up outside that top 1/3 and don't use up the places in the other 2/3, we are just going to shrink. We are shaped and formed by the environment, by the social milieu that we are in. I worry when the numbers get too small, because then if you are in the very small minority, you walk in, then it's like I'm one of the 75 Catholics out of 1,200 students. Then the school may not feel very Catholic lah. And that's why the environment is so important.
What do you think are some of the challenges that you face in raising Catholic kids? My 2 older kids, 12 and 10, they're at that phase where they really want to spend a lot of time gaming. And it's something that we really struggle with at home. Anything that's bright, shiny, loud, fun and everything will just grab their attention. The trends that's going on in class, this funny thing, bombardiro, crocodilo or something. There's a whole list of them. Yeah, and then it's like AI generated images.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, which is a mashup of different things. But some of them are really insidious. Just something that like really kind of like preys on them without them even knowing, because they don't know the intention behind all these things. I can't keep like hovering around them and telling them this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing it.
They're not with you all the time.
Yeah, they're not, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
the ultimate aim is to be able to like equip them to be able to make a decision, like what is right, what is wrong, even when mom and dad are not watching them, you know. And I really pray and hope that by going to a Catholic school, being immersed in certain values or virtues, it will help them. For example, my son's class has been self-discipline in St. Gabriel's for many, many years. So I'm like, maybe that's something that you really need, son. Self-discipline.
I think the toughest thing, right, is to bring your kids for Mass. We do what we can, and God recognizes what we do. And slowly they will develop that sense of self-control, especially the ones with the younger kids.
We've heard of people say things like, oh, don't put them in the cry room and all that. Let them be exposed and so on and so forth, right? But sometimes it's like when you disturb people, right, you really feel very bad.
Oh, yes.
And you get those like and all that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Now once you
Yes.
cannot, right, you're traumatized already, you know. Then you
I think it takes some courage when the comes or the, you know,
Yeah.
all of that. It's very hurtful.
It is, eh?
It is very hurtful. And I think as parents, right, with young kids, I mean, you do try. It's not like you're doing nothing, right? But I look at it as a form of worship and a form of suffering. You know, picturing myself carrying my cross, you know, as similar to Christ, right, as he's going and people are jeering at him and spitting at him and throwing things at him, right? But then, yeah, look at me, right? Look at them, you know, at me and doing all of these things, right?
they're the Pharisees.
Yeah, or whatever, right? Yeah. So I mean, like, let them be who they are, right? I do my best. Yeah, does it get to me? Of course, it does get to me sometimes, right? But I think it becomes like a prayer eventually. If they're really, you know, throwing a tantrum or, you know, in tears, yeah, I'll bring them out. Otherwise, they're next to me. I'm holding one of them normally, and I'm explaining to them, oh, you know, look at this. Oh, James, look. It's really blood, you know, in that cup. And he's like, oh, really? You know? And I was like, oh, look at Coco. Coco's going to ring the bell, right? Say it's similar, right? It took a while. And now I care less about what other people say and do.
You know, when you don't care too much about what people think of you, you're actually role modeling to your children. Because it's always all these projections, isn't it? If I worry about what people think of me, my own children will learn from me and worry about what the world expects of them. And that's where all this anxiety and all this restlessness that we see so much of in our children and youth today.
For me, I hope that, you know, my kids are able to see like a greater purpose in life, and that greater purpose is for them to serve God and where their eventual destination is lah.
Yesterday, I had a dream. And in the dream, the two words came to me. Funnily enough, the name of my school, Maris Stella. And I went to Google, what does Maris Stella mean, right? And basically, or rather Stella Maris, is actually Star of the Sea, right? My hope for them is that their faith will always be that star that guides them through the very choppy seas, which have all these sharks and poisonous things around, relativism and AI, you know, pornography, whatnot, right? But they will feel safe and guided and looked out for. That's my hope.
For me, the most important thing for my kids is to have God at the center of their lives, right? Everything else, very secondary. He sees Christ everywhere, and you'll see like the pole there, and he'll say "teng teng," or he'll see, you know, something that kind of resembles a cross, and he'll say it's Jesus. So my hope for him, I think, is to not to lose that, right? When he grows up, because I don't know, I suppose when puberty hits, or when the rebellious stage starts, or when you go out and start working in the real world, these things can tend to be forgotten. So I hope that he doesn't lose that.
I hope that my children, even when they're upset with me or they cannot come to me, that they can go to God. I pray very hard that this, whatever we are doing right now, sending them to Catholic schools, forcing them to go to church, you know, and the constant reminder and surrounding them with prayer and you know, whatever we can instill in the faith, that they will always know that they can go to God.
Just to end this whole conversation and discussion, what do you like to say to parents who are not sure about enrolling their children in Catholic schools?
It takes a village to raise a child, so get all the help you can get. send your kids to Catholic schools so that they are surrounded, they are in the faith daily they are reminded, so that when they become adults themselves, their compass is already there and they have less to worry about because they know who to turn to.
As a kid, I was kind of like a lukewarm Catholic. Being surrounded by like a Catholic environment like all this while when I was growing up, it really helped, because I do remember like, you know, being in a chapel, crying about my results a few times, right? And like when I was there was this sense of peace and this sense of like knowing that everything will be okay. And I hope the same for my kids lah. Like no matter where they go, that they will have this sense of knowing that there is really a bigger God watching over them.
I think people have this sense is that, or maybe if you send your kid too much to catechism class or to church too much, then they forget about school. But I don't think so. I think if they really know God and they want to do as God says and to have these values, then yeah, you would do the very best that you can. Excellence, right? For parents, yeah, maybe on the fence or whatnot, right? I think the values you get really help mold your child. For Catholics, it's having Christ at that center, and everything else flows out from it.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope it has been insightful and enriching, and this can also help you to make a more informed decision on which schools you would send your children. Come join us in a Catholic school.
Bye.
Bye!